Hello everyone. If you are here, it is hopefully because you have watched part 1 and part 2 of my How to Write a Personal Budget series. Now, part 1 is where I told you guys how to, or what all to pull together and what supplies you needed. Part 2 was how to organize all of that information, write it down in that notebook, and then get to this point where today now we are writing that budget out, and you are going to see exactly where your money is at on paper so far. Now, coming up here very soon, I'm also going to do a video on how to balance your checkbook or your bank account. That is also very important when budgeting, but it is a completely separate component. So it is not part of this series. It will be a separate video. All right. Now, guys, I have done a couple of different versions of this over the years. Let me tell you one thing first. As long as you know how much money you have coming in and how much money you have going out for your guaranteed expenses, there's really no wrong way to do it. You just have to be accountable to yourself. So if you think of a different way to write this than what I'm coming up with, by all means do it. In fact, I'm going to flip to a fresh page here in my notebook. I'm going to write you guys an example because I have a friend who years ago, she didn't even write on the lines. She actually would just write mortgage, and boy, that was messy, electric, and then she would write a total. I don't know, I'm gonna write $1,000 in the mortgage. Way cheaper than a mortgage you're gonna get at this point, but you know what I'm saying. Electric, $100. Again, way cheaper than currently. But she would do this, really didn't matter about anything else. She knew how much they had coming in a month. She would kind of write that number up here at the top. And as each bill came along, she'd just cross it off. That just meant she had paid it. That was it. That's how she budgeted. Guys, it can seriously be that easy. Now, hopefully you took that list that I showed you guys last time, which had all of your monthly expenses. You were supposed to write down the totals and write down the due dates. Hopefully you got all of that done, because now what we're going to do is we are going to transfer those into a budget. If you want to do it the way my friend did, because you don't have a whole lot of expenses, by all means do it. There is nothing wrong with that. If, however, you have a few more expenses and you need to keep things a little more organized, then that's what we're going to do now. Now, I have two primary methods I have used over the years, and it really just depends on how much time I've got and where we're at. So I'm going to show you guys this version first. And I know there's not really a whole lot written on here, but what I have here, up here, this is the pay amount. So pay amount equals, this first line is how much you are making, your average paychecks. Now, if you're working hourly and your hours vary, guys, this is going to vary a little bit too. That page that I showed you that my friend used to do, their pay varied very much from week to week. So she just knew how much they had to pay out. And she kind of waited till the end of the month, stockpiled anything extra. And then whatever was left over at the end of the month, that is what she had the next month to spend on extras. So they kind of ran in a rolling month cycle. That actually really works for some people. So keep that in mind as a possibility. If you have a general idea, if your paychecks are pretty average, in a general range, if your salary, or if you know they're never going to be below a certain amount, write that amount here, the little slash to show how often. So the pay amount is $1,000 per week. I mean, that's what you can do. You just need to know how much you have. And that actually is something that is very important for both of the versions I'm going to show you. So over here, now guys, I just wrote generic terms here. So this is the month that we're writing this for. So you're going to write the name of the month here. These are the dates you're going to have paychecks. Now, this is based on the idea of having weekly paychecks. If you get paid bi-weekly or say on the 1st and the 15th, you just write those two dates. That's it. You write the dates you expect to have paychecks at the top. Now, DD is due date, and then this is the amount. So this is where, when we're writing our budget, we're going to come in here, and so below month, this is where I'm going to write my description of things. So this is where my mortgage is going to go. I'm going to write the due date and then I'm going to write how much that mortgage is. Now, the paychecks, you can create this as columns. You can put a check mark under which paycheck that needs to be paid out of. So if you've got two, however you want to do that, you are going to do that the whole way through. And at the very bottom, now I did not write this in on this one. At the very bottom of this page, you're basically going to look at it as like a big math problem. So you're going to write a line across the bottom underneath all of your bills. You are going to total up all of your bills for the month. Because if you've got an expense you know you have for, say, this coming month, if there is an upcoming expense that's not typical, but you know you're going to have it, you need to be writing that on your budget so it comes in your total. Then down here, you can do the math. You can say, here's how much I'm going to get paid next month. Here's how much I have outgoing. Here's my total. And then you need to figure out if you're going to make enough to cover that and then plan accordingly. Okay, so there is that method. The other method, and this one, guys, it requires a little bit more thought, but at the same time, it keeps it way more organized. But the page looks a little more jumbled. It's not all in one nice long list. This is actually my preferred method, personally. So again, up at the top here, you are going to have now I wrote per week because for so long we were paid weekly for my husband's job. So pay per week or bi-weekly, just pay per whatever. And you're going to write your total paycheck average just in this space up here somewhere because you're going to need that. Now, again, this is based on weekly. So right now, this was based on having 4 average paychecks a week. But this space over here, because every now and then when you get paid on Fridays, there's a 5th week in some months. We always looked at that 5th week as a bonus paycheck because that is money we did not account for in other months where we had to pay everything through 4 paychecks. So a 5th paycheck was kind of a bonus. And that is actually how we built our savings over time. So in this version, I did a lot of abbreviating and a lot of smaller writing in the corners of those little squares that were created. And I went ahead and I just hurried up and wrote these in here because I realized I hadn't. So I would do things like this, where it says MRTG for mortgage, cell, INT for internet. This one is garb for garbage. That's what's in here. And then I'm going to write the total for that amount that has to be paid in each of those spaces. Now, this is based on the payday and which payday I'm going to pay that bill in. This actually makes it very easy to stay very organized, to know at the end of every week how much you've got. So it's not just, I told you guys about my friend who really just budgeted monthly, and anything that was left over, she carried over to the next month. And that is the extra that they had. This method, you get to do that weekly or per paycheck. And guys, I really do apologize for constantly using the weekly reference. I know there's a lot of people who are not paid that way. So I hope you understand that I really do mean per paycheck, not necessarily per week. But either way, unless you're paid monthly, this still applies to you because you can know how much you're going to have left over at any of those given points. All right. So now that I've shown you guys how to write in your bills and everything there, I have, again, this little math problem line that divides all of your expenses down here from the rest of the page. So in the next grouping, and guys, you can tell, like, I literally just handwrite these in really quickly because it does not have to be fancy. This is literally just for your personal use. But this section says totals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all of our expenses from that column that needs to be paid out of that paycheck, and I'm going to write that total right here. So once I have that total written just in this space, I am going to come down here to this last space, and this is remainder. So remember up here, we wrote how much each paycheck should be or how much we expect it to be. And if you guys want to, you can wait and work this out weekly as well. But I'm going to take that amount and then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to subtract this total from it. And that's going to show us how much is left at the end of the month. So just in case you're having a hard time visualizing the math problem that I'm saying, I'm going to put something over here where let's run through this math problem. So let's go ahead and say that you get paid $1,500 a paycheck. In that first column, let's say you had $1,300 worth of expenses. We're now going to subtract that $1,300 away from the $1,500 you started with, and that's going to give us the remaining $200. That's how much you have to either put into your savings or to go ahead and roll into the next week. Because guys, there are some times when you have expenses that are a little bigger than one paycheck in a week based on due dates. So I try to arrange our bills if that were to happen. So let's say the second week, you're getting that $1,500 paycheck, but you have $1,600 worth of bills. Well, guess what? We had $200 left over in the first week. 100 of that is going to roll to that second week to cover that difference because you're still making enough money. It just has to be carried over. Okay, so now that we have all of that basic budgeting done for your monthly bills, your expenses, and everything else, you're going to get a little farther into this and figure out how to work your yearly expenses in. Now, this can look one of a few ways, honestly. I'm not even going to say one of two ways. You could be somebody who chooses to use your tax return to pay those yearly expenses. Nothing wrong with that. I do hope that in your budget or as you get going and figuring out how to tell your money where to go, you're telling some of it to go to savings. So then that way, those yearly bills, you know what, they can be paid out of savings once they get due because it's sitting there to be used for that. Because guys, I cannot stress this enough, how important it is to have a solid savings account. Because things happen, life happens, things catch us off guard, and you need to be prepared for that. Now, you'll never be prepared for everything, but it definitely takes the sting out of it if you have something sitting there waiting for you. So, oh my goodness, we are building a budget and hopefully helping you get your life on track financially, if that is your goal. Okay, so we have covered how to gather everything, how to get it all pulled together and written down, and how to actually write out your monthly budget. With all of that said now guys, this video is getting a little bit longer, and that's okay because I'm just hoping I can teach you everything possible and help you out with this. When you get to writing this out, you're going to start to see patterns. You're going to see things. First thing you're going to notice is that you can write out months ahead of time for your budget. You really can. You may not be able to write out your totals or how much you're going to have left over because you may need to see what your paychecks are going to be. But your expenses that you know are not going to change, you can go ahead and write all of that out. And in turn, what that actually is going to help you do too, because one option you have, and this works on this type of budget as well as, I'll flip over to the other page, as well as the standard list style. At the bottom of those pages, write in, when you think of things, if you've got a birthday coming up, an anniversary coming up, a holiday coming up, write in how much you plan to have extra for that. And then do your best to stick within that budget. So when it comes to birthdays for all of the kids that we have here, my husband and I sit down at the start of the year. We look at our bank accounts. We look at what our plans are for the year, how paychecks are looking at that point. And yes, things can definitely change throughout the year because we have birthdays at this point from March all the way through November. So, but we do our best to kind of get an idea of what we think a good budget looks like. Typically, now if it's looking like a really tight year or there's some things we're really unsure of, we might go as little as $100. We have gone as high as $200 per child per birthday. And I know there's some people who are probably thinking that that's not enough. And you know what? If you want to spend more, that is perfectly fine. Just make sure you have it first. For us, we like to let the kids pick a birthday present or a party. If they want to pick their birthday present, then they can pick something bigger and nicer. And we still do something as a family for their birthday, but we do not throw a big party. So if they would rather have a party with a bunch of friends and family and do something more, like we have one kiddo who loves to go to Pizza Ranch, and we typically end up feeding a lot of people there. And then they used to have an arcade there as well. So they would like to go play games and stuff. So we would give some cash to the kids for that. That really takes up the bulk of the money. So therefore, the present that they get is something much smaller, picked out by us for them, typically has a little bit more meaning to it, but may not have been some big item that they wanted. Whereas if a child has their eye on something, we've had a couple kiddos who had very specific requests that they really wanted, and they determined that item kind of meant more to them than having a party. So whether it be a Kindle reader, a ukulele, a metal detector, those have been some of the requests. So these are not just pulled out of the air. Anyhow, those items do tend to be a little bit more expensive. And sometimes it just equals us agreeing to go in with it or in on it with them. Or with my in-laws who are really gracious with a lot of that stuff as well. So that is honestly what you're going to put at the bottom there. So let's see, right now when I'm recording this, it is July. Come August here is my husband's birthday as well as our oldest son. So I will write that at the bottom of the list here, just at the bottom of the page, that here's their birthday, here's the amount. Now we budget for those out of our savings, not out of paychecks, just because that is how we've chosen to do it, because we do put money into savings every month. That is something we've made a point to do for years. It is not something I was raised doing or necessarily taught to do. So it took a lot for me to get to that point. So that is also why I strongly encourage you guys to be building your savings, putting extra away. This does not mean you cannot go do things. If you have a monthly outing that you want to go to, you guys saw we have things that we order from monthly. If you want to go, monthly outings, if you want to be part of a club, you want to spend $20 a month on new books. Like, these are all options. Just put it in your budget. And if your paychecks can't support it, then you need to reevaluate some of those choices. If those choices are important enough to you that even though your paychecks can't support it, then I encourage you to figure out how to increase your paycheck or get a second job to cover those extras. Anyhow, guys, I know that these videos are starting to get a little bit longer with each one that we do, but I really hope that this has helped you figure out how to get that budget written. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave it in the comment section down below. If you have not watched my other budgeting videos, check the description box out to find those links so that you can watch all of them to make sure that you have all of the information that you need. And as soon as I'm able to get to it, I am going to get that other video about how to balance your checkbook done. Since it is a separate video, not necessarily part of this series, I will probably still include links. I'm going to create a playlist for all of this financial stuff, so you guys will be able to find it there. Even if I don't have the link to that one in the description boxes, you'll be able to find it. Anyhow, I hope that you guys are all having a blessed day. I really hope that these videos have helped you out and helped you figure out how to do this. I do have lots of recommendations of resources that you can check out. So many great people out there that give great advice on how much they think you should have in savings, how to build your savings, how to pay off debt. But this was purely how to write your budget. If you guys want any of my tips or ideas, thoughts on how to pay off debt and some of that, I will happily share it. But that will be a separate video for a separate time. And I will gladly do it if that's what you want. As far as how much you should have in savings, guys, that is really a personal choice. There are people who say $1,000, that should be your emergency fund. You know what? I think that was great when that advice started being given. I think times have definitely changed, and $1,000 is not going to cover much of anything for you anymore. So you need to have an amount that you are comfortable with. Think of the most recent car repair you had to have done. Something like that came up out of the blue. Think of how much a water heater costs, plus the plumber if you're not able to do it yourselves. These are all things you just need to think of, and then you decide for yourself, is it $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000? I don't know. That is up to you. You put what you can in savings to get up to that point. And then once you have that emergency fund, I do highly recommend saving as much more as you can. Yes, the goal is going to be to have 3 to 6 months worth of income so that if something should happen, you know that your bills and everything else will be covered for that time frame. But the truth is, guys, why limit yourselves? Save as much as you think you can. Save for your future, save for those vacations, save for other things. And then at some point in there, if you want to get into investing and everything else, it's your choice. But you've put that money aside either way, and it is your money. So anyhow, that is my rant. That is my 2 cents. I really do hope that this video has helped you out. And again, I've said it once, I will say it again. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section down below. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss all of the other videos coming up next. Things that you might find helpful or just entertaining. I don't really know at this point. And then I will see you guys in the next one.